The party had started like any other family gathering, laughter, clinking glasses, and the warmth of familiar voices. I had always been the quiet one, the one who watched and smiled from the edges, never quite fitting into the patterns of our family. But that night felt different. Something in the air was sharp, heavy, as if it were testing me, weighing me against invisible standards I could never meet. I tried to join conversations, offering small smiles and polite comments, but each attempt seemed to fall flat. Cousins whispered behind their hands, siblings exchanged knowing glances, and even my parents seemed distant, preoccupied with faces I barely knew. I remember sitting at the corner of the room, clutching my drink, pretending to laugh at jokes that didn't reach me. Then it happened. A careless remark by an uncle, meant perhaps as a joke, struck deeper than any blade. "You never do anything right, do you?" he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. The room froze, and I felt every eye turning toward me, not in concern, but in judgment. My chest tightened, my heart raced, and before I knew it, I was being escorted out, shoved really toward the door. No explanations, no chance to defend myself. The laughter from inside followed me, cruel and hollow. Outside, the night was cold. The city lights blurred through my tears as I walked aimlessly, my mind replaying every insult, every disappointed glance, every moment that had led to this point. I had no home to return to, no warm bed waiting. My belongings barely fit into a small backpack, and even that felt heavier now. Burdened with shame, I wandered the streets for hours, lost in a fog of despair. People passed me, absorbed in their own lives, unaware of the storm raging inside me. The cold bit at my fingers, my stomach growled, and I realized the harsh truth: I was truly alone. For the first time, I felt what it meant to be invisible, discarded like trash in a world that had no place for me. Just when the hopelessness threatened to swallow me whole, I heard a voice, soft, gentle, almost hesitant. "Are you okay?" I turned and saw a woman sitting on a nearby bench, her eyes full of concern. She wasn't dressed extravagantly, nor did she offer pity. She simply looked at me, as though I mattered. And that small recognition pierced through the walls of despair I had built around myself. I don't know," I admitted, my voice trembling. "I've nowhere to go." She nodded, understanding more than words could convey. "Sometimes," she said, "all it takes is one step, one decision, to change everything. Come sit with me." I hesitated. Strangers didn't usually offer kindness, but there was something in her tone, a quiet confidence, that made me trust her without thinking. I sat beside her, shivering from more than just the cold. She offered me a warm cup of tea from a thermos she had in her bag. "You don't have to tell me everything," she said, "but let me help you find your footing tonight." For the first time that evening, I felt a flicker of hope. We talked, slowly, carefully. She asked about my dreams, my fears, my family. She didn't judge my mistakes. Instead, she listened, really listened. And somehow that listening began to mend parts of me I didn't even realize were broken. By midnight, she led me to a small shelter where I could rest. It wasn't much, but it was safe, warm, and welcoming. The volunteers there treated me with dignity, offering not just a bed, but a chance to start anew. And all of it had begun because one stranger had chosen to speak to me, to whisper kindness into a world that had shouted rejection. The next morning, I woke to the sound of birds and the soft sunlight filtering through the window. For the first time in what felt like forever, I smiled, not the forced smile I wore at the party, but a genuine one, rooted in possibility. That whisper, that small act of recognition, had shifted the axis of my world. It reminded me that even when family fails, or when the people we expect to care the most reject us, there is always a space where compassion exists, where new beginnings are possible. Weeks passed, I found work, slowly rebuilt my confidence, and began reconnecting with the parts of life I had abandoned in shame. My family, to some extent, remained distant, but I realized something important. Home is not always where we are born, it is where we are seen, valued, and cared for. And sometimes, it comes from the most unexpected places. That night, kicked out and left in darkness, I had learned a lesson I would carry forever. It only takes one person to remind you of your worth. One whisper can be louder than a room full of judgment. One act of kindness stronger than a lifetime of rejection. And from that whisper, I found not just shelter, but the courage to rebuild my life on my own terms. This is around 800 words and captures emotional depth, transformation, and the power of kindness.